welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and we've just had a record month in January for total downloads and visitors. Thanks to everyone who listens, to everyone who tells other people about the show, and to the players for their time. In this edition, we talked with Cheryl Bernard, number 6 on the Asham World Curling Tour Order of Merit, and number 1 in the recent Alberta Women's Provincial Final. Author, 1996 Scotties Tournament of Hearts runner-up, and now returning to the National Championship in 2007, Cheryl Bernard, welcome back to The Curling Show.
Thanks, Dean.
A first, kudos for perseverance. It's been since 1996 since you've been back in the National Championship in Canada. To give some perspective of how long that's been, the last time you were there, I think it was the last time Colleen Jones played with Kay Zink before this season, and Connie Laliberty was Team Canada. Marilyn Boda was the champion. How many times over all these years did you start to think it just wasn't going to happen again for you?
Oh, I don't know that I ever really gave up. It sounds like I probably should have, but, it's just Alberta's a tough province to get out of, and I think you just got to keep trying, and we did a lot of stuff. We entered in a lot of steals, and we were consistent on the tour and everything, so I think we always knew it would come. I just didn't know it would take 11 years.
Well, you wrote a book about the mental aspect of curling with Guy Schultz last year. What sections in there did you rely on to get ready for the Alberta Provincials and to get ready for both the semifinals and the final against Kathy King?
Well, I think a lot of it's just, believing. I think even doing the book, I think, helped me a lot just to remind myself that a lot of that stuff is, what got me there years ago, and maybe I'd let some of it slide. And so, for me to believe that we could do it, the practice that we're very diligent on how much practice we do as a team, and knowing that we've done everything to get ready and believing we can win in a final. And I think all that stuff worked together for us to come out on top in that one.
Hey, I was looking at photos on teambernard.com, and I'm wondering about the possibilities of you having a retro night in Lethbridge and breaking out those 1996 uniforms.
Oh, God. Somebody said, they showed them on TV here in Calgary, the blue pants.
They were something.
Oh, I don't know what they were thinking that year. They weren't the best pants, and they weren't flattering on anyone. I don't know a soul that looked good out there that year.
Yeah, they looked sort of high-waisted, you might say.
Yeah, they were. High-waisted and kind of balloon pants.
Yeah, so I hope you have something better this year.
Yeah, I think we've got just the normal curling pants.
Yeah, I think curling apparel has certainly improved when you look at those photos.
Yeah, I hope so. And no, I think the clothing has come a long way, thank God, and it's looked a lot better. So that's one good thing. I'm looking forward to the Scotty. I think, a lot's going to have changed in 11 years since I've been there, and I'm looking forward to see all the changes and just to enjoy the moment when we're up there.
Hey, it's always such a tough field in any provincial final in Alberta, but a few teams, notable teams that were expected to maybe do better in Alberta that didn't. Deb Santos and Shannon Clybring, did they just forget to read your book?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask if they did, but I'd rather they didn't if that's the case. But I think, the ice was a little bit different, and it's just what you get, and teams catch on to it one weekend, and some weekends other teams catch on to it. I don't put much into looking at what the field does because, any weekend it could have been a different team out of that entire field that could have won it. So, it's just the weekend and how you gel as a team and how you catch on to the ice. And, Alberta's a tough province to come out of, so I think that sets us up really good for the Scotties.
Hey, you were bitterly disappointed, I think, last year to miss out on that Canadian Olympic trials spot. You're in a real good position right now in the CTRS standings. How much will the fact that you could really help your trials chances with a good run in Lethbridge, how much is that going to be in your head?
Not at all. We're thinking about it now, but what we've talked about with our coach, and we're working really hard to, get to the tournament and just focus on one game at a time. And I know it's a cliche, but it's what works best for our team. And we've worked really hard to get to this spot, but we've got to keep doing the same things that got us here, and that's just not looking too far ahead and focusing on what we got to do each day, and that's how we're going to, basically come out and play well.
You've been pretty instrumental in helping to build the women's tour, and now we've got news that Sobeys is going to back us a Grand Slam for the women next year. How important do you think that news is for women's curling?
Oh, I think it's, I think the women's tour has moved forward, and and I've been instrumental the last few years, but there's been Ann Merklinger and Karen Purdy and Kathy King and a lot of people before me that kept moving it forward, and it's, we've come a long way, and we're getting better money, we're getting better sponsors, we're getting more notice, for even our own local sponsors. So, I think Sobeys is fantastic. I think the World Curling Tour is doing a great job to represent both the men and the women, and we're moving forward and doing the right things for our sport.
I had Mike Harris on the show earlier, and he talked about the big differences between the men's and the women's game. What do you think the big difference between men's and women's curling is right now?
Just weight. That's it. That's all I would say. They can throw bigger weight than we can and move more rocks. And that being said, we've got to be a little bit smarter out there on the ice because we've got to play a little bit more finesse shots, and we can't rely on that kind of power to come down and move out 3 or 4 rocks that we need to do in the end. So that's all I think the difference is. I don't think there's much more than that.
Do you think the women's game can evolve in certain ways to make it a little more exciting to watch? And I don't want to sound sexist, but and I probably will already. And I don't mean to be that way, but I think it has improved. But do you think it can improve more?
I think and one thing some teams are working on, we've got to work on the physical part. We've got to work on being able to throw the bigger weight. We've got to, I think that's going to make a big difference to a lot of teams if they can get out there and throw some weight, and that brings some excitement into the game. So, if we can do that, I do think we can bring it to maybe the next level. But it's always going to be different. Men's and women's sports in anything, where you go from hockey or tennis, they're just different, and people like it for different reasons. The Scottie has a great following, the Brier has a great following, and I think that, that's probably good that they're not the same.
Well, tennis is an interesting one because I think women's tennis is actually more interesting to watch now than men's tennis because they hit the ball back and forth a little more often. So maybe women's curling can evolve where it's more of a draw finesse game.
It is, and I think, you do see that when we get on good ice, in the Scotties you'll see it, and, if it's good ice and we get that kind of ice, that kind of game is going to be played out there. It's interesting because finally last year we got to play on, slam ice at the Players' Championship, and we couldn't believe the ice. We kept saying to the men, the curl and the consistency, and they're like, well, this is what we get every time. So, if you can get that kind of ice everywhere you go and it's going to be the same, you can play a different game from the beginning of the weekend, rather than going out and having to figure out the ice and learn a different rink every time you go. So they've got an advantage there that, I'm glad we're starting to get that advantage too.
Since you wrote the book on psychology and curling and the mental game, there's always an extra pressure on Team Canada when they go to the Worlds, any Team Canada. But I think last year that, there was a bit of hand-wringing about the women's game in Canada. How do you think this year's Team Canada has to handle the pressure, whoever it might be, whether it's you or someone else? How do you think what do they have to do to handle the extra pressure of being Team Canada at the World Championships?
I think you've just got to stick to your routine. I don't know, and it's probably a really basic thing to do, but you've just got to go out there, you've got to stick to your routine, you've got to realize that the pressure's on you. I think one of the biggest things that helps when you get in those types of situation is, and even for us going into playing the Scot in Alberta in our home province, is we know the pressure's going to be on us, we know that we're going to be expected to do well, but that's just what it is. We've got to go out there, play the best we can, and know that we all are a team together. We all will go home afterwards to family and friends and everything else, and nothing like that's going to change in our life. And I think that just kind of opens it up for you to then go out and play and let the pressure kind of be on somebody else.
So it's all about balance, is it?
Yeah, I hope so. We're trying that anyway this year.
That's what you're trying to convince yourselves, right? You're trying to convince yourself, yes, this book is correct. I know it is.
Read it. It's correct.
Yeah, if I could just believe it. All right, Cheryl, we end with a run back. I give you a topic. You give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words. Annette Norberg versus Pale Lindholm in a Battle of the Sexes match.
Oh, women on top all the time.
Oh, jeez. The abundance of new curling books on the market.
I think it's just our sport. Our sport is moving up.
Driving just over 2 hours to play in a national championship.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous? I think I remember last time I had you on, you said you'd never curled outside of Canada, right?
Nope, never. And I've gone to Japan since, though.
Oh, you've gone to Japan since, but now you're finally in the national final, and it's 2 hours south.
2 hours is ridiculous. I wanted to go somewhere warm, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah, you're really lucking out there. The 2007 female athletes calendar.
Excellent.
This week's Alberta Kia Cup Provincial Men's Final.
Hot.
Hot?
Yeah, hot.
Yeah?
Good teams, great. It's good.
The Randy Furby's been complaining about a lot of picks. It does seem like they've had a lot of flat spots on the ice.
Yeah, I read that in the paper today. I didn't know. Maybe they've got their hands down. I don't know what's going on, but that's too bad because that's unfortunate. It does ruin the event.
Yeah, the ice looks good otherwise, but I saw Furby played Mark Johnson last night on Curl TV, and Dave had a hit to lie 2, and it flashed because he picked.
Could you get it? I tried to get it on Curl TV, and it must have been our connection because it was froze most of the entire time.
Well, they're just keeping people from Alberta from watching it.
That's the hell's going on?
People in New Jersey are free to watch it.
Everybody from Alberta can't watch anything.
I love Curl TV. I'm sitting here in New Jersey watching the Alberta Men's Provincial Final. How great is that?
It's excellent. I know I sit down there. I must be the world's biggest loser with my computer on my lap as I watch curling. But
yeah, well, I'm starting to feel that way here.
I know.
And finally, the lead slot on Team Jennifer Jones in Lethbridge.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I think it's the business of curling these days.
Yeah, it's a tough deal. I don't think they handle it PR-wise too well, but I don't know who they're going to have. It sounds like they might not have, they may have a new lead again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't condemn them for it. I think each team manages that stuff differently, and I think they did what they had to do. Maybe they didn't handle how they did it properly, but it's, the business of curling, it's getting up there.
All right, Cheryl, this year I try to make sure I give teams a chance to name their sponsors, so name yours.
Well, Drill Away Directional Services in Calgary, Canada Broker Link, Cross Clothing, Fats Bar and Grill in Calgary, and our coach, Dennis Balderston, who we own, a ton to.
So how many logos do you actually have in your jackets?
We have 4 logos on our jackets.
Oh, did you hear about the OCA where they said you couldn't have more than 4 during a provincial final?
Yeah.
Is that unbelievable or what?
I know, and next year we're doing jackets already for next year, and they said, just hold on before you get anything done because we're changing the embroidery, how big the logos can be and everything. So.
Well, that's absurd. You should be able to have as many as you want.
Yeah, and I still think, curling at the Canadians needs to kind of be more like hockey or like golf, where, golf is sponsored by, say TELUS, a tournament, but they can wear Nike in it. I mean, it's great.
Well, yeah, you can play in the Mercedes Championship with a Buick logo on your shirt.
And why wouldn't you? That's great. You've got competition. And so we go to the Scots, and nothing against it, but I don't understand the Scott and the Briar and their thinking in that. But
well, then they do that scrolling thing that lists all the team sponsors. It's worth about 2 cents.
Yeah, it goes so fast.
Yeah, it goes so fast. It's like, here's the sponsor. Zip. All right, Cheryl. Well, thanks for your time. Good luck in Lethbridge. It's great to see you back there.
Yeah, thanks, Dean, for everything. Appreciate it.
That's Cheryl Bernard on The Curling Show. Thanks for listening. Here's the pudding.